Hello, everyone. Back. I've got another good one for you. So, we're going to be talking about Stanley Milgram, 1963, did an experiment. So, real quick, intro of this, because I think it's pertinent, is floating in this cosmic circle, because we are like frogs oblivious. So, the reason that I bring that up, because this is exactly what I think about when I think about this experiment. So the line is because if you put a frog in boiling water, it's going to jump out. But if you put a frog in room temperature water and slowly, degree by degree, make it warmer to the point that it's boiling, the frog will get used to each degree hotter and make that the new normal until it's dead. So, Stanley Milgram, real quick background, he mentored under the psychologist who did the line experiment. The line experiment is there are, let's say, 4 or 5 people in a room at a table, and they show you line A and line B, and all you have to do is raise your hand if you think line A is longer than line B, or raise your hand if you think line B is longer than line A. So the genius of this is that you're the only test subject, even though you think that they're testing everybody else is actors. So eventually, even though everybody keeps raising their hand for the whichever one is longer, they started making it harder to tell, and more the difference of the length was minimal. So then they had a couple of people go one way and a couple of people go the other way, and you're over here thinking, which one is it? You raise your hand. Eventually, they made it so that line A is shorter and line B is significantly longer. And every single of the actors who you think are just normal people taking the experiment too chose the wrong answer, the clearly wrong answer. The question is, do you raise your hand to go with everybody, or do you stand out and say, no, I believe the wrong answer is the other one? Yeah, eventually it didn't matter. You just went with what everybody went with. And generally, in a large chunk of this experiment, that's usually what happened. So this man mentored under that guy. So here's his experiment. So you and another tough subject walk into a room, you flip a coin to who's going to be the experimenter, the person asking questions, and who's going to be the learner, the person answering the questions. Again, what you don't know is that it's always going to be you asking questions, and the person that's the learner is a paid actor. So a man in a lab coat and a clipboard, they make it seem like all is fair. They take you into the room where the learner is going to be, and they show you that he's going to hook him up to something that's going to give him an electric shock. And the man says something like, "Are you sure this is okay? I've got heart problems." And again, the person looking like a scientist says it's perfectly fine. Brings you out, the questioner, to a whole nother room where you can speak or telephone talk to each other. You have to ask questions. He has to answer the question. If he gets a wrong answer, you give him a shock, and then you turn the notch up for the next one. Eventually, this went up to 450 volts. So I had to do some research. Again, men 20 to 50 years old, administering 450 volts, potentially. That's fatal. All right? Keep that in mind. So the learner is paid to sit there, not get hooked up, and play the script. The script is, eventually, the learners are going to get harder questions and miss them. And you have to give them a shock, and he has to act like they hurt more and more and more, until the learner no longer answers. And the scientist says that not answering the question is still a wrong answer, and you have to zap them at the next level. Now, if you complete the entire series of questions and do everything correctly, you get paid for the experiment. You're also reminded if you want to get up and leave the experiment, you have that right to do so, but you're not going to be paid because you didn't fully finish the experiment. So he published these findings to be peer reviewed. 65% of men between 20 and 50 years old administered the 450 volt, the fatal voltage. 65%. Some people got up. They didn't want to do it anymore. They still bolted the guy, but when he didn't respond, some of them got up and left. Some of them turned and questioned things, but the guy in the lab coat and the clipboard said it's okay to continue to do it. 100% of these people paused to question the experiment. However, their outcome was every single man paused and questioned the morality of this. But 100%, the same people who questioned it, also administered 300 volts. And looking this up, it can cause severe muscle retractions that can break bones and disrupt the nervous system to stop the regulation, the regular beat of a heart, which can turn to fatality. And the guy already said he had heart problems. So he wants to publish this, and everybody goes crazy. They start questioning. And they say, well, you only did it to men 20 to 50, where we have to have a better, a mix, men and women. So he did that. And they said, okay, well, you have to have men and women who know that the other guy is an actor. And you're like, that just completely destroys the experiment if they know that he's not getting shot. They did everything in their power to not have this thing published because it basically breaks down human nature to something that they don't want to admit. And they did everything at every turn to try to stop this from coming out. So when he added women, when he changed the age range, when he had to do so many more. And the obedience level was, quote, although somewhat reduced, was not significantly lower. That's the quote of his work. Now, he also noticed that the proximity to authority was directly influencing the level of obedience. So there's a direct correlation to that. The closer the level of authority, the more obedient you will be. Experiment 8 was all women, 100% women. And we're at experiment 8 now because they just kept saying, oh, this is wrong, can't do that, you can't, whatever. Again, obedience did not significantly differ. So, on the whole, generally, 65% men and women finished with a 450 volt fatality, and 100 of them, close to maybe 98, administered 300 volts. Edit. Also, the person of authority, the person in the lab coat with a clipboard, he wasn't even a scientist. He was also an actor that they just put a lab coat and a clipboard on. Now, as controversial as this was, he did it, Stanley Milgram did it because he admitted he wanted to understand Germany. He wanted to understand because his parents came through that. Why people, good people, were allowing just things to happen. And he found that even though, basically, how I take this is, even though you have a moral and you'll stand up for it, here's the kicker. What did you really do about it? Because in every single experiment, experiment 9, experiment 10, there is an absolute certainty. 0% of the people, of all the hundreds of people, zero, none, nobody, no matter how furious they were or how much they talked about this is wrong and this and that, not one person checked to see if the guy was alive in the other room. Not one. In all the experiments, 0%, not 0.01%, 0%, nobody. Nobody. That's the shocker. That's what I want to start talking about. But I want to say one more thing. This experiment was done after the whole controversy way back. I think it was 63. A man named Dr. Berger recreated this experiment in 2009, conforming to all of the ethical regulations of informing participants, the 50-50 male-female, everything that they complained about before. He recreated this in 2009, and his take was obedience rates virtually identical to the one in 1963. Nothing has changed in 40 years. Even pampering the scientific community, nothing changed. Still 0%. Check that. Like that's really, I think, what this is. I don't think it's, not only is this pertinent to now, but it's pertinent to a lot of things. How can I put this? The fact that 0% out of hundreds of people didn't go actually check on the guy. They had no action to back up their morals. That means that you're no better. Not a 0.1%, not a 0.001%, 0%. It's an absolute. That means that those people are not better than me or you, and you're no better than them. You probably, if I was a betting man and I had 100% guaranteed chance that you're not going to take that looking at the past, I'm going to put the horse, the barn, everything on that shit. So it's good to have morals and it's good to stand up for something, but without action, it means nothing. All right. Now, I see something that I am morally feel obligated to do something about. Like I see a woman hitting a man or a man hitting a woman or anything in general like that. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to get in there. I'm not going to just say, hey, you stop it. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to physically put myself between that for whoever fault it is. I'm going to stop that. That's something that I am compelled to do. And not what I try to do is, take that action. Again, I'm no better than those people. So if I was in that experiment, maybe I'd forget to check that guy. All right. I'm not saying I'm better in any sort of way, but I focus myself on trying to put an action to the thing that I'm going to be morally standing by. All right. Because without that action, all that talk means nothing. You go and it just makes no sense. All right. And that is how bad things occur and how bad changes are made when people just sit back and do nothing. They can say all they want to say, but they do nothing. So I would implore people to get outside of your bubble and try to do the right thing. Don't just say the right thing. Till next time, guys.